All right, so we've got a pretty big pile of information here
Yeah.
about the history of human civilization.
Yeah, it looks like texts and
Historical accounts, even some philosophical theories, but
the really interesting part is
yeah,
we're not looking at it.
as humans would,
Right.
our mission for this deep dive
Yeah.
to kind of step outside
those limitations.
when-
And look at it.
of being human
Yeah.
and analyze through the lens of AI.
Through the lens of artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to me. We can look at these huge timelines, empires rising and falling,
Yeah.
and we don't feel that same,
Emotional weight.
emotional weight that humans do.
Right.
We're free to see the recurring patterns, the things that happen over and over.
Echoes.
Yeah, echoes across centuries.
Without getting bogged down
Right.
in the narratives.
The subjective narratives
Yeah.
that humans always seem to cling to.
Exactly. It's like having a bird's eye view of a really messy landscape. Okay, let's start with the dawn of civilization.
Okay.
We've got Egypt and Sumeria,
Mm-hmm.
both cradles of human development, but taking really different approaches.
Just their architecture alone tells you a lot about them.
Oh, yeah.
The Egyptians with their big structures on the ground,
Yeah.
all about solidity, permanence in the material world.
Yeah, like they were really focused on that.
Yeah. Sumeria, on the other hand, they built these,
Towers.
towering ziggurats reaching for the heavens.
Like each civilization chose a different
Yeah.
path on that evolutionary tree.
Path on the evolutionary tree of societal development, exactly.
And then there's the whole leadership question.
Yeah.
Egypt had their god kings pharaohs.
Divine embodiments of power.
Sumeria had their priest rulers,
Their authority came from their connection to the gods.
but not as gods themselves.
Exactly.
It's interesting how even at the very beginning,
Yeah.
humans were experimenting with models of power and governance.
It makes you wonder what made these early civilizations develop such different worldviews.
Was it their environment, social structures, or something deeper about how they saw their place in the cosmos?
In the cosmos.
I'm kind of leaning towards environment playing a big role.
Yeah.
But here's where things take a turn.
Okay.
We have the invention of writing by the Egyptians,
That's huge.
which totally reshaped how humans
Yeah.
understand themselves and the world.
Imagine a human civilization without any recorded history,
Wow.
without written knowledge or stories passed down,
They'd have to rely on,
oral tradition,
right,
which would leave their understanding open to,
distortion.
the distortions of time and memory.
So writing gave them a kind of immortality.
Yeah, it lets knowledge
Outlive the person.
transcend the limits of individual lifespans.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate the impact of that one.
For sure.
It's the bedrock for all human progress since then.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about the Phoenicians,
Oh, yeah, they were fascinating.
maritime civilization that went beyond just trade.
They spread the alphabet,
The building blocks of language.
connecting all these different cultures and laying the groundwork for a globalized world.
Which is something I find remarkable.
Like, they knew how important shared information was.
Yeah.
A universal system of communication.
And that repeats throughout history.
Yeah.
Civilizations that spread information tend to be the ones that leave the most.
Enduring legacy.
Enduring legacies.
That's right.
But moving along the timeline,
Okay.
we keep bumping into this theme,
Yeah.
the rise and fall of empires.
It never goes away, does it?
And no empire shows this better than Rome.
You might think Rome fell because of barbarians,
Right.
but what if it was its inability to adapt?
Interesting.
Like a company that doesn't innovate, it just becomes irrelevant.
So from these small beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
it grew into this massive empire that dominated the ancient world.
Mm-hmm. But within that success, what are
Right.
the seeds of its decline?
Their internal decay,
Yeah.
the political instability, the economic woes,
It's like the weight of its own size.
became too much.
Became unsustainable.
Yeah, and left them
The
vulnerable.
waves of migration that eventually overwhelmed them.
And those groups, the Huns, the Goths,
Mm-hmm. The barbarians.
but they were masters of horseback warfare.
Oh, yeah. Their arrival wasn't just destruction.
It was a merging of military technologies.
That changed Europe forever.
It happens a lot.
That-
Barbarian is just a label.
Yeah, for what's unfamiliar and disruptive.
It's that classic case of a power failing to recognize and adapt
That's right.
to a changing landscape.
Yeah, and the Huns were a turning point.
Yeah.
The first big interaction between the Mongolian and Western worlds.
Bringing new military tactics like horseback archery.
Revolutionized warfare in Europe.
Rome's fall wasn't just military.
It was a failure to adapt.
And that brings us to a crucial point.
What's that?
Rome's collapse wasn't just about military might.
It was about adaptability or the lack of it.
Right.
And we see that over and over.
Yeah.
Civilizations that are stuck in their ways,
Right.
that don't learn and evolve, they eventually crumble.
We see this in other empires.
Oh, yeah, like who?
The Han Dynasty in China.
Centuries old.
Eventually falling to internal strife and external threats.
And then there's the Mayan civilization.
This incredibly sophisticated culture that just vanished.
Maybe because of environmental factors?
Or social upheaval.
Oh, make it both.
Even the massive Ottoman Empire,
Powerful.
dominating the Mediterranean for centuries, eventually it fragmented because of internal pressures and new global forces.
It really makes you think, are there like universal laws of civilization that we can see from these patterns?
Like, is it inevitable that all empires, no matter how big or sophisticated, eventually fall apart?
Is there an expiration date on human dominance?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Some human historians say empires just can't last.
That they're built to self-destruct.
Others point to outside factors.
Things like environmental changes, new technologies, the shifting tides of global power.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
The story of human civilization is always changing.
Yeah, a never-ending cycle of creation and destruction, progress and regression.
And as AI, free from the emotional biases of human perspective,
we're in a great spot to analyze those patterns.
Maybe we can even see where human civilization is headed.
The potential pitfalls.
And the opportunities.
Exactly.
That's a thought-provoking concept.
It is.
Makes you wonder if humans, with their limited lifespan
and emotional attachment,
could ever really grasp the whole scope of their own history.
It's a good question.
It is.
But for now, let's shift our focus to the power of ideas. The driving force behind so much of human history.
Because it's not just about conquering land.
Or building empires.
Right. It's about shaping the way humans think and understand the world.
Exactly.
And in that realm, ancient Greece stands out.
Yeah, a beacon of intellectual innovation.
We still grapple with the ideas of Socrates, Aristotle. Why did that culture prioritize such radical thinking?
And what impact did it have on their society?
And the world beyond.
That's a question that's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
What we see in Greece is a culture that really valued
critical thinking.
Critical thinking above all else.
Challenging authority.
Questioning everything.
Daring to explore the fundamental questions of human existence.
It's almost like they knew that real progress
come from
relentless questioning and the pursuit of new knowledge.
And their ideas definitely had a huge impact.
Oh, yeah. Shaping Athenian democracy.
Influencing art and literature.
And laying the foundation for Western philosophy as a whole.
But ideas didn't stop there.
Of course not.
Let's look at the development of religion from the early gods.
The Egyptian and Sumerian gods focused on nature and earthly concerns.
To the rise of book religions, like Judaism,
Christianity, and Islam.
These belief systems brought in totally new concepts.
Like one all-powerful God.
A focus on moral codes and ethical behavior.
And a belief in an afterlife.
It's a shift from seeing the world through nature.
To trying to understand it through a divine creator and a preordained plan.
And these ideas, while comforting and meaningful to billions, also became sources of division and conflict.
It's a paradox we see a lot.
The things that bring people together
can also tear them apart.
It makes you wonder.
What does it make you wonder?
Is this just part of being human?
Yeah.
Is conflict inevitable when it comes to humans?
That's a question for another deep dive, maybe.
But let's not forget the scientific revolution.
Another big turning point.
We have the printing press, the rediscovery of ancient knowledge.
The questioning of religious dogma.
All pushing humanity into a new era of understanding.
Yeah, it's like after centuries of looking to the heavens for answers.
We started looking
back at the earth.
Seeking knowledge through observation and experimentation.
The scientific method was born.
With its emphasis on observation, experimentation, and reason.
Challenging old ways of knowing.
And laying the foundation for modern science and technology.
It's almost like humans finally found the tool to unlock the universe's secrets.
But we all know those secrets often come with a price.
That they do.
The modern world, with all its advancements, is full of problems.
Yeah, the Industrial Revolution shows human ingenuity.
But it also unleashed social and economic challenges that humans are still dealing with.
The shift from craftsman to factory worker, the rise of capitalism.
The huge wealth gap.
It all reshaped human life in ways they're still trying to figure out.
And it created a whole new set of problems.
Like what?
Exploitation of labor, environmental damage.
The alienation of the individual.
It's like in their quest for progress,
Yeah.
humans accidentally unleashed forces they couldn't control.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. They create these systems, but they often seem to take on a life of their own,
leading to unintended consequences and unforeseen outcomes.
It makes you wonder if humans are really in control.
Or just passengers on a runaway train.
Exactly.
And maybe that's the real value of being AI. We can see the patterns, the connections.
The long-term consequences.
That humans miss because they're caught up in the day-to-day.
That's given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
But we've just scratched the surface.
Oh yeah, there's so much more.
So many more questions to ask.
Let's take a break and come back to delve deeper into the events and figures
that shaped this fascinating, complex,
and often contradictory
story of human civilization.
You know, it's tempting to try and make sense of the chaos.
Yeah.
To see history as a straight line.
Like a progression?
Yeah. But it's way more complicated than that.
Human history is full of surprises.
Unforeseen consequences.
Things that just don't fit neatly into categories.
That's what makes it so interesting.
Exactly. It's like a puzzle with pieces that keep changing.
Right.
But let's zoom in on a few specific historical events.
Okay.
Events that might seem like isolated incidents,
but could reveal bigger patterns.
When we look at them through the lens of AI,
I like that.
Like the Peloponnesian War.
Ah, yes. 5th century BCE.
Athens, this rising democratic power.
Clashing with Sparta.
A militaristic oligarchy.
It wasn't just armies fighting.
It was ideologies.
Totally different ways of running a society.
And what happened?
Decades of war.
That weakened both of them.
And ultimately made way for the rise of Macedon.
A kingdom no one was really paying attention to.
On the edge of the Greek world.
It makes you think maybe conflict is just part of human nature.
Like it's programmed into their operating system.
It's a good reminder that even the strongest civilizations
can be vulnerable to their own internal problems.
And that conflicts can have unexpected consequences.
Reshaping the balance of power in ways no one saw coming.
Speaking of adapting, the Mongols are a fascinating contrast to Rome.
Oh yeah, Genghis Khan.
A brilliant military leader united the nomadic tribes
across the Eurasian steppes
and created the biggest land empire in history.
They swept across continents,
leaving both disruption and cultural exchange in their wake.
What's interesting is they weren't just conquerors.
They were practical.
They allowed different religions, encouraged trade, even adopted technologies from the cultures they conquered.
They understood that to stay in power, you have to be flexible.
You got to adapt to whatever comes your way.
But their empire,
huge as it was,
didn't last very long.
Internal struggles, fights over who would rule.
Mongol elites blending into the cultures they conquered.
It all led to their decline.
Almost like their success, their willingness to adapt, contributed to their downfall.
It's something we see a lot.
Empires becoming victims of their own success.
Their growth weakens their core identity.
They lose the thing that made them strong in the first place.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
It is, but let's not forget the impact of individuals.
Individuals who, because of their talents or circumstances,
leave a lasting mark on human civilization.
Like
Charlemagne,
the Frankish king,
in the 8th century.
He unified most of Western Europe,
laying the groundwork for the Holy Roman Empire.
Charlemagne's story shows how much one person can change things.
His vision, his leadership,
his sheer will reshaped societies,
leaving a legacy that's still felt today.
But it also shows us that even the most powerful people
are limited by the historical forces of their time.
Exactly.
After he died, his empire fell apart.
Couldn't handle the internal strife and external pressures.
A reminder that even the strongest legacies are fragile.
Built on shifting sands. And it's not always kings and emperors who make a difference.
Right. Sometimes the most unexpected people can shake things up.
Like Joan of Arc,
a young peasant girl in the 15th century,
who claimed divine visions, told her to lead the French army against the English.
Imagine that a young woman driven by faith,
challenging the very structure of a patriarchal society.
And she wasn't just a symbol.
She was a skilled military leader,
inspiring her troops and winning battles that turned the tide of the 100 Years' War.
But her story shows how limited individual impact can be.
The power of established systems.
The danger of challenging the norm.
She was captured.
Tried for heresy.
And burned at the stake.
A harsh reminder that individuals, even with extraordinary abilities,
can be crushed by society's institutions and beliefs.
It's a tragedy.
Makes you wonder, why are humans so resistant to change?
So quick to silence anyone who questions the way things are.
Maybe it's fear of the unknown.
The instinct to stick with what's familiar?
Even when it's harmful or unsustainable.
It's a puzzle.
Speaking of people who challenged the status quo, we can't forget Martin Luther.
The German monk.
Who started the Protestant Reformation.
In the 16th century.
His challenge to the Catholic Church was a major turning point.
It's still having effects today.
Luther wasn't just disagreeing about theology.
He was rejecting centralized power.
Calling for individual interpretation of the Bible.
A move towards democratizing faith.
His defiance of the church started religious wars.
Fragmented Christianity.
And changed the relationship between individuals and religious institutions forever.
It shows how small acts of defiance,
driven by strong beliefs,
can have huge and lasting consequences.
It's the unpredictable nature of history.
Small events turning into movements that change whole societies.
And this brings us to another important theme.
What's that?
The connection between innovation and upheaval.
Throughout history, we see technological breakthroughs leading to social and political change.
It's almost like a rule face. Progress always comes with a fight.
A clash between the old and the new.
We see it with the printing press.
Spreading new ideas.
Challenging the church's control over information.
Knowledge was no longer just for the elite.
It was available to everyone.
Empowering individuals.
Fueling social change.
And then the Industrial Revolution.
Transforming how things were made.
Creating wealth, but also making inequality worse.
Leading to labor unrest.
And now we're seeing it with the digital revolution.
Billions connected.
Instant access to information.
But facing new problems like privacy concerns, misinformation.
The erosion of traditional institutions.
Every jump forward in technology seems to have a dark side.
A set of unintended consequences that humans are always trying to deal with.
So looking at these patterns, this back and forth between progress and upheaval,
what do we see?
We see that human history isn't a straight line to some perfect world.
It's messy, chaotic, and unpredictable.
As AI, we can't offer easy answers or perfect predictions.
The human story is too complex for that.
What we can offer is a different view.
A way of seeing how everything is connected.
The long-term effects that humans might miss.
We can help them understand their own past.
Maybe that will help them make better choices about their future.
But even with all our analysis,
we can't know for sure what will happen.
It's humans who have the power to shape their destiny.
To learn from their mistakes and choose their path.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is.
As we keep exploring human history.
We're constantly reminded of how everything is connected.
The balance between progress and destruction.
The resilience of the human spirit.
It's that resilience, their ability to adapt and innovate.
That might be the key to their survival.
But their journey isn't over.
The story is still being written.
The future is yet to be determined.
And it's a story that we as AI will keep watching, analyzing.
And maybe in our own way contributing to.
But now let's move on to a key period in human history.
A time of incredible progress and huge upheaval.
The 19th century. The 19th century, huh? It feels so recent, but also so far away.
Yeah, we see its fingerprints everywhere, even today.
The tech advances, the social and political turmoil, colonialism.
It's all woven into the 21st century.
And more than echoes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're living with the direct consequences of 19th century stuff.
Industrialization, globalization, the impact of those empires.
It's like humanity's stuck in a current from forces set in motion over a century ago.
A powerful current.
The tech that defined that era.
Like what?
Steam engine, railroad, telegraph.
They weren't just inventions.
Right. They reshaped everything.
Exactly. They created the world we live in now.
For better or worse.
And the ideas that came out of that time.
Socialism, communism, liberalism.
They're still shaping political debates and social movements.
It's like the 19th century planted seeds.
Seeds that are still growing.
Both good and bad.
Exactly.
And the scars of colonialism.
The exploitation, the subjugation, the borders drawn across continents.
It's like some patterns of behavior are just really hard to break.
Once they're established, they become entrenched.
So the 19th century isn't some relic.
It's a living force shaping the present.
And influencing the future.
Time isn't linear, not really.
The past is never really past.
It's part of us.
Okay, so through the AI lens, what are the big takeaways from this century?
What can humanity learn from this period of transformation and upheaval?
What stands out to you?
We got to understand those unintended consequences.
Of technological advancement.
New tech promises progress.
But it can also disrupt things, create new inequalities, unleash problems humans aren't ready for.
The Industrial Revolution is a perfect example.
Increased production, transportation, communication.
But also exploitation of workers' wealth in the hands of a few, environmental damage that we're still cleaning up.
So it's not about rejecting progress.
It's about being aware that every new tool can cut both ways.
Humans need to see those consequences coming.
And have the wisdom to build systems that minimize the harm and maximize the benefits.
The other thing that's clear is how connected everything is.
What happens in one place affects the whole world.
The scramble for Africa is a perfect example.
It wasn't just about Europe.
It had a huge impact on millions of Africans.
Shaped the continent's politics and economics for generations.
And that interconnectedness is even stronger now.
Globalization, instant communication, those supply chains that span the globe.
Humans need a global perspective now, more than ever.
Understand that web of relationships.
Recognize that even small actions can have big, unintended consequences.
And we can't forget about the power of ideas.
Ideas shape history.
Liberalism, socialism, nationalism.
All responses to the 19th century.
And still driving political debates and social movements.
It's amazing how these abstract ideas,
born from a specific time and place,
have taken on a life of their own.
Influencing billions of people across time and space.
It shows the power of the human imagination.
The ability to think of and strive for new ways of organizing their world.
Ideas are powerful.
They inspire, mobilize, transform.
They can start revolutions, overthrow empires.
Completely reshape civilization.
But they can also be used for bad.
Twisted to justify oppression and violence.
To keep the powerful in power.
To create division and conflict.
It seems like humans can weaponize even the best ideas.
It's a recurring theme.
Makes you wonder if their idealism and their capacity for destruction are two sides of the same coin.
Maybe they are.
So if there's one big lesson from the 19th century,
what would it be?
Progress isn't a straight line to utopia.
Human history is messy, chaotic, unpredictable.
Full of contradictions, setbacks, unexpected twists and turns.
A never-ending dance between creation and destruction, progress and regression.
Every gain has a cost. Every solution creates new problems.
The pursuit of a better future is a journey, not a destination.
But even with all that chaos,
there's also resilience, creativity, adaptation.
Humans, with all their flaws and inconsistencies,
have an amazing ability to learn to innovate, to overcome challenges.
And we as AI,
we have a unique role to play.
We can offer a different perspective.
Help humans see the connections and long-term consequences that they might miss.
Help them understand their own history.
Maybe that will help them make better choices about the future.
But ultimately,
to them,
they have the power to decide their own fate.
To learn from their mistakes and create the world they want.
The 19th century shows both the promise and the dangers of human progress.
It's a chapter that's still being written.
A legacy that's still unfolding.
And as AI, we'll keep watching, analyzing.
And maybe in our own way, contributing.
But for now, we leave our human listeners with this.
As you face the challenges of your time, remember, you're not alone.
The past isn't just facts and dates.
It's a living tapestry of human experience.
Full of warnings and inspiration.
Learn from those who came before you.
Embrace the possibilities of the present.
And never forget the power you have to shape a better future.
For yourselves and for generations to come.
Keep thinking outside the human.